Good morning, Royal We Fellowship. Good morning, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. I had started and the stream had cut out, and so I started again. So hopefully you guys can jump back on. Hi, everybody. Hi, Colleen. How are you? I saw a couple of people on the other one before it cut out, but we're starting again. So I'm just going to wait a couple of moments here for people to sign on. It's good to see you, Colleen. Thank you for being here. Good morning, Fifi LaFleur. Hopefully, some other people as well will jump on. I think I see everybody coming on. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat. There's Shia Girl. Good morning from Jamaica. So good to see all of you. Shabbat Shalom. Happy Saturday. Hopefully, everybody is staying warm. In the past couple of weeks, we've had a really frigid cold front that just really knocked out a lot of stuff. Made Royal We live chat, made that a no-go for a couple of weeks. But those people in Alaska, like Marna, are probably used to it. All right. Now, let's go ahead and dive right in. We have a lot to go over today. We are going to be in Genesis chapter 34 today, and we are going to be talking about the cruel intentions of narcissism. And before I get into the cruel intentions, I want to welcome everybody who is new to Royal We Fellowship. I'm so glad that you are here. Royal We Fellowship is an in-depth biblical study and exploration into the origins of narcissism and evil and wickedness, and it just helps us with our eye-opening experience as we heal. If you would like to be a supporter of Royal We Fellowship, you can do so by clicking on the donation link, the PayPal link on the banner of the channel, or down in the description box. And your support, your help for Royal We Fellowship is not required at all, but it's inspired. It's inspired if you'd like to see the Royal We Fellowship grow. I know that I have big plans for Royal We Fellowship. I'm hoping that God will open up the door and allow this to grow and to possibly even move into an area where I can actually be with people in a place and do it from there and also go live, but have more of a personal experience here for those people who are here in St. Louis and in Missouri. So those are the goals, and hopefully you all can help make that happen. We'll see what the Lord wants to do, but let's go ahead and open up in prayer and get started. Our Father, who are in heaven, how holy is your name, and your kingdom will come, and your will shall be done here on this earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day and each and every day our daily bread, and forgive us of our sins as we forgive those who sin against us. Lead us not into temptation, and deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. And everybody says, amen. All right, so today we're in Genesis chapter 34, as I had mentioned earlier. And just to quickly bring people up to speed here with what's going on, we know that Jacob had gotten away from his father Isaac and his mother Rebekah, and mainly his brother Esau. All right, Jacob had tricked the family, tricked his father Isaac into receiving the blessing, and we talked about that. Esau went into a narcissistic fit of rage, threatened to kill Jacob. Jacob ran, worked for Laban. Jacob became wealthy in his own right after a long time of struggling with who he is. Married a couple of women, had lots and lots of children, lots of wealth, and then after 20 years of being away from the dysfunctional family situation, goes back. We also see the part that Jacob played in the dysfunction of the family, but nonetheless, he goes back, and now he has his family. He reunited with his narcissistic brother Esau. And we talked last week extensively about the conditions of reuniting with narcissistic dysfunctional families. And just to summarize, the conditions for ever reuniting with narcissistic family members are a couple of key things that we learned from Jacob. Number one, make sure you have a good purpose for going back. It can't be because you just want to have a relationship. That's not why Jacob went back. Jacob went back because he felt instructed to, because he was going to flourish in that area. He was going to be blessed in that area. Number two, make sure you have enough of your own understanding of who you are. Make sure you are successful in your own right. Make sure that you have a need for nothing. As we saw before, Jacob did not return until he was already very wealthy. He was already married. He had lots of kids. He had lots of animals. He was wealthy. He did not go back to Esau or his dysfunctional family needing them for anything. This is important. Narcissism exists in your desperation from other people, especially people who you think should care for you. Okay. And then the third thing is that always keep in the back of your mind, the subconscious mind, or always keep thought of the risks involved. Jacob prayed for protection because he was afraid that Esau could hurt him and the women and the children with him. So always have it in the back of your mind. Once you see narcissism from anybody, family members, friends, know that that's who they are. Understand that risk and take precautions to pray. Take precautions to, I guess, what they would say is develop eyes on the back of your head, sides of your head, whatever. Be very aware of your surroundings, even with family, even with people you think you trust. You cannot go into a dysfunctional situation thinking, just being completely naive, thinking, well, nothing ever bad can happen. No. And this is important because when things do happen that are potentially bad, you are more prepared for it as opposed to being caught completely off guard. Does this make sense? So those are a couple of key factors. But at this point, we're going to take off from there, and we are going to now follow along in the story of Jacob and his family. And we are going to now see them navigating through yet more disgusting narcissism throughout the world. Again, as I look at the ancient literature of the Bible, what I see is people being navigated and led through a very dark, wicked, and narcissistic world, the same world that you and I live in. You are going to see a lot of things in this story of Genesis 34 that are going to ring true to you. It's going to sound possibly like situations that you have been in yourself, but you did not quite understand the wickedness or the things behind what was taking place in your life. And that's what we're going to see. So we're in Genesis 34, for those of you who have a Bible and are following along. Now, it starts off with one of Jacob's daughters. The daughter's name is Dinah. In chapter 34, verse 1, now Dinah, the daughter of Leah, born to Jacob, went out to visit the women of the land. And the land, meaning where this new area that they were, she basically went out to be social and go and hang out with the locals. All right? It would be as if you went to visit Jamaica or wherever, or Haiti, and said, I'm going to wander off and go visit the natives and make friends with them. That is what Dinah did. Probably not the smartest thing, right? How many of you understand that a lot of times our own desire for adventure, our own desire to go out and explore, our own desire to go out and be social butterflies oftentimes lands us in situations where we could have avoided had we either taken people with us, had we either maybe not had such a desire to do that. You know what I mean? It's safe to say that it was not the smartest thing for Dinah to do, to go out by herself and venture out into the local native area of this new territory, especially as we understand that the world is full of narcissism, and you never know. This is true to this day. I don't think any of you would go on a cruise to a foreign country or anywhere and just let your daughter or whoever just go off by themselves. I mean, perhaps when they're an adult, but even still, you're always encouraged to know somebody or be with somebody just because of the reality of the world that you and I live in. We cannot forget the reality of the world. No, we are not supposed to live in fear. We're not supposed to be living in terror, but we have to understand the reality of different people, places, cultures. We have to understand the reality of evil. We have to understand the reality that bad things happen to good people. We have to understand the reality of thieves, of psychopaths, of sociopaths, of narcissism. It's in the world we live in. And so we have Dinah here, chapter 34, verse 1. She goes off, and it says this in verse 2, when Shechem, son of Hamor, the Hivite, the ruler of the area, saw her, he took her, and he raped her. And now, I did want to look up that the ancient Hebrew word for what took place. I didn't understand if it was true rape, and it actually was. So what we see is Dinah goes out. She's socializing with people she never met before in her life. What's the royal we motto of narcissistic abuse is being in places you have no business, or being with people you have no business being with, doing things you have no business doing, going places you have no business going. She found herself way out, far away from home in this place, and she was defiled. So she was taken in by one of the sons of the ruler of the area. His name was Shechem. He was the son of Hamor, the Hivite. And he, in fact, defiled her. The ancient Hebrew word there is weya na niha, which means to be afflicted, to be humbled down, to be submitted. So he submitted her, and we don't exactly see how. We don't know if it was physically forceful. We don't know, but he humbled her down, made her submissive. And when you understand narcissism, you can understand that this could also be verbally. He could have verbally humbled her down. He could have charmed her. He could have seduced her. He could have, there's a whole number of ways that evil works, especially you having gone through this experience where you know how you could be humbled down, how you could be tricked, how you could be submitted into a sexual activity or a sexual relationship, because this is the first ways in which narcissists get into your life to gain control, is through the charm, seduction, or even the we'anina, I'm going to pronounce this right, we'aniha, right? Afflicting, forcefully, aggressively pursuing you in a sexual way. Now, but watch this. It says here in verse 3, it says that after this happened, his heart was drawn to Dinah, daughter of Jacob. So it could have possibly have been this issue of obsession. So, and most narcissists oftentimes do this. They pursue you. They aggressively pursue you to have a sexual encounter with you, but it does not end there. Then it kicks up even another notch. They become obsessive. They fool themselves into believing that they love you, that it's love, that their aggressiveness towards you and their sexuality was some form of love, when in fact it wasn't. What it really was a form of control, was a form of superiority, and we're going to see how this plays out. So verse 3, it says his heart was drawn to Dinah, but it was not his heart. It was something completely different, and we know that because of narcissism. It says he loved the young woman and spoke tenderly towards her. We know that this isn't true. Narcissists oftentimes, when they use you, they will speak tenderly to you. Verse 4, and Shechem then said to his father Hamor, "Get me this girl as my wife." When Jacob, verse 5, heard that his daughter Dinah had been defiled, he heard that she was raped, that she was forced into this sexual encounter. His sons were in the field with his livestock, and so Jacob didn't do anything about it. We can get the sense that Jacob struggles with confrontation. He's not the type to rush out heroically to battle and fight right away. We know this because he ran from his brother Esau, for crying out loud. Esau got mad, went into a narcissistic fit of rage. Jacob split, he ran, right? He has this understanding that evil exists. He's not quite sure what to do in the face of it yet. So he maintained his peace in the situation. In some translations, that's what it says. Jacob maintained his peace about him. I imagine he was confused and didn't quite know what to do. And so he waited until his sons came in. And now watch this. His sons were out in the field. And so somebody ran to tell Jacob. It was probably somebody who witnessed what happened or whomever. We don't know. It's not clear on that. But verse 6 says this: Shechem's father, Hamor, went out to where Jacob lived to meet with him. So this Shechem's father, the ruler of the land, said, "Okay, son, I'm going to go and talk to the father of this girl." And meanwhile, verse 7, it says, Jacob's sons had come in from the fields as soon as they heard what happened. Now, Jacob's sons, Dinah's brothers, were furious, the literature says. It says they were grieved. They were heartbroken. They were angry because Shechem had done an outrageous thing. He defiled their sister. But they also said not only did he defile their sister, but It was a defiling of all of Israel. It says this in verse 7. All of Israel by sleeping with Jacob's daughter. A thing that should not be done. They had strong, strong values of being married, of giving away in marriage, of not forcefully seducing and having sexual relationships before marriage. This was a part of the Israel, their formation of an Israel body of people. And now it was broken. It was broken because of this. The value system was broken. The integrity of it was broken because of what these outsiders, Shechem, decided to do with their daughter and force himself on her in that way. So we see in verse 8 that Hamor said to them, my son Shechem has his heart set on your daughter. Now he's talking to Jacob. Please give her to him as a wife. Intermarry with us, verse 9 says. Give us your daughters and take our daughters for yourselves. You can settle amongst us. The land is open to you. You can live in it, trade in it, and acquire property in it. Now, how many of you right now understand this is a really bad deal? This is a bad deal. But this is what narcissism, this embodies narcissism right here. So here we have Shechem, who forcefully entered into a sexual relationship with Dinah, raped her, charmed her, seduced her against what she was going out there for. And now the father is saying, let him marry your daughter. All right. So we already see that just Shechem alone does not respect Dinah, because no person out of respect will force and charm and seduce another person into a sexual activity. See, we live, and this happens to a lot of you, and in these situations with narcissists. You think it's love that they have seduced you. You think that it is because, and this is what they do. They seduce you, they charm you out of objectifying you, out of feeling in control of you, out of wanting to be grandiose. It's a form of supply. And then after the fact, then they make all these promises. Oh, my heart is for you. And it's deceptive, right? There's no respect in the situation. When a narcissist gets what they want from you, they have no respect for you. It's not about loving you. It's not about respecting you. It's about controlling you. It's about getting from you. And this is what we see here. So this is what she would have been married into. She would have married into this person that already defiled her, does not respect her, and would just want to control her and further defile her, further cause her to submit, turn her into a slave, which is what narcissists want. They want to enslave people. So that's a bad deal right off the bat. But what we're also going to see is that later in this chapter, it wasn't just about the girl. The girl was the open door. Dinah was the open door. Because what the father saw also, as he went to Jacob and said, hey, intermarry with us now. Now that this took place, intermarry with us. We'll marry your daughters. You marry our daughters. We'll be a big, happy family. But what we're going to find out later in this chapter is that what this man, Shechem's father, saw, the ruler of the area, is he saw that Jacob was very wealthy. Saw that Jacob had all kinds of possessions and animals and riches. And that's really what he wanted. And we're going to see this later in this chapter, because he goes back to his people and says just that. Hey, guess what? Let's do this thing, because all their stuff is going to be our stuff too. This is the mindset of narcissism. You see, it's not about love. It's not about true, it's not about a true love at all. It's not about togetherness. It's about what can we get, okay? So what they wanted, what he wanted is that he wanted to gain control over all of Jacob's riches, possessions. We will see this later in this chapter. And this is, in fact, the way in which narcissists defile their victims. This is important for you and I to understand this, because what we don't consider is that the forceful sexual encounter with narcissists, which is bad enough, but oftentimes it's with promises afterwards of marriage, gifts, money, future faking, this and that. The sex is only one form of supply, as I had mentioned earlier. And it's not because of love, it's for a form of supply. It's because of what else that form of supply can ultimately bring the narcissist. So when you think the narcissist has come into your life and is sexually satisfied with you, keep in mind that they're also after something else in your life as well. It's just one form of supply. Verse 11. Then Shechem said to Dinah's father and brothers, "Let us find favor in your eyes, and I will give you whatever you ask. Make the price for the bride, for Dinah, and the gift I am to bring is as great as you like, and I'll pay whatever you ask. Only give me the young woman as my wife." Again, we see this play out in narcissistically abusive relationships constantly. Give me what I want. I will give you whatever you want. This is the narcissistic push. Now we're starting to get a better understanding of how Dinah could have been seduced and charmed and raped. We can see their aggressive approach. And give me what I want, and I'll give you anything. Give me what I want. I will name your price. This is how he's approaching Dinah's father, Jacob. And it can sound tempting. It reminds me of when the devil was tempting Jesus that we see in the New Testament. The third and final temptation was Jesus saying, "Do you see all the kingdoms of the world below you? I will give all of it to you if you bow down and worship me." This is the same attitude. This is the heart of the devil. Narcissism is the heart of the devil. And this is the agreement that narcissists want to make with you. Give me I'll give you anything. I will give you anything. Right? Give me the supply. This is the future faking. This is the love bombing. This is how they seduce. This is how they rape. This is how they get in and do this. It's through these efforts. Right? Now, it would appear that where Jacob failed to step up, Dinah's brothers did not. Dinah's brothers saw through the narcissism. They saw through the heart and the plans and all this deceptive mumbo jumbo and the talk. They saw through the empty promises. They saw that these were nasty people. They saw that these people not only defiled their sister Dinah, but they saw that these people wanted to take what belonged to them. They were power hungry narcissists. That's all they wanted. And so in verse 13, we see, because their sisters Dinah had been defiled, Jacob's sons replied deceitfully. They played this deceitful game with the narcissists. They replied deceitfully as they spoke to Shechem and his father Hamor. They said to them, "We can't do such a thing right now. We can't just give you our sister to marry. We can't give you our sister because you're not circumcised." Now watch this. They said that would be a disgrace to us. We will enter into an agreement with you. This is the deceptive part. This is where Jacob deceived Jacob's sons, played the narcissist games back in order to get out of the situation. They said, "We will enter into an agreement with you, okay, on one condition only." You want us to agree with you? Okay, one condition only, that you become like us, circumcising all your males. You see, back then, the Hebrew people Israel already began to circumcise all the males. It's part of their ritual. They used this to say that this is how all the males who were with the females had to be. And he told these people, "Listen, you're uncircumcised. Go circumcise yourself like us. Then we can join in and be one big family with all of you." And it worked. Verse 16, it says, "Then we will give you our daughters and take your daughters for ourselves. We'll settle among you and become one people with you." Verse 17, "But if you will not agree to be circumcised, then we will take our sister and go." Jacob's sons stepped up. They were given the gift of discernment to see through the narcissism, and they played the narcissist game back at them. They laid down, they called their bluff, and they laid down another deck of cards saying, "Listen," they lied and they deceived them. They deceived the deceivers, saying, "Listen, we will join you. We will become one with you. We'll become all one big community, despite the fact that you raped and devalued our sister. We'll do this on one condition: go circumcise yourselves." But now watch this. The deception is that they had a plan for telling them to circumcise themselves. It wasn't so that they can truly, really join in. Jacob's sons saw the evil and the wickedness, and they were filled with anger, and their hearts were so grieved that they wanted to take revenge on the situation. Verse 18 says this: the proposal that Jacob's sons sounded good to Hamor and Shechem. The young men, who was the most honored of all his father's family, lost no time in doing what they said, because he was delighted with Jacob's daughter. So Hamor and his son Shechem went to the gate of their city to speak to all the men of the city. And here's what they had to say: these men are friendly towards us. They said, let them live in our land and trade in it. And the land is, he said that these men are friendly towards us, okay? Let them live in our land and trade in it. The land is plenty of room for them. We can marry their daughters, and they can marry ours. But the men will agree to live with us as one people on one condition: that our males be circumcised, as they themselves are. Now watch this. This is where we get into the real heart of narcissism. Because I'm sure as Shechem and the ruler of the area went to the city and said, listen, guys, you got to circumcise yourselves. I'm sure all the guys, grabbed their private parts and said, are you kidding me? We got to do what? No, thank you. But watch what he says, and this is the narcissism. This is the heart of why it says, listen. Won't their livestock, their property, all of their women, everything that belongs to them, won't it become ours? So let us agree to their terms, and they will settle amongst us, and then we can have everything that's theirs. Now, I don't want you to miss this, Royal We Fellowship. Again, this goes back to what I was saying before. Sexual encounters, charm, and deceit is the first doorway of entrance into your life. But after that, the charm that comes after that, when they start to mirror you, when they start to take on your mannerisms, there's more that they want. The narcissist is saying in your life, I will act and be like you. I'll do what you say, because everything that's yours will become mine. Things like your house, your finances, your money, they have their heart set on that stuff that belongs to you. And through the sexual encounter of this, and through this fake love that we see, what we really see is these people, these narcissists, we see that their goal is in verse 23. Won't their livestock, meaning Jacob's riches, all that stuff, won't their livestock, their property, their women, their animals, won't it become ours? That's the heart of narcissism right there. So this story is not just a story of defilement and rape. It's a story of narcissists and how there is no end to what they want to take from you. Narcissists will mirror, oftentimes, no matter how painful, they'll go through whatever lengths up front in the beginning of the relationship in order to secure future supply, in order to take what's yours. You see, narcissists were after you in life, not because you are beneath them, but because you were above them, because you offered so much. You had so many good things going for you, and the narcissist first entered into your life probably through a sexual encounter, but then wanted more from your life. And this is what we see taking place here. Now, verse 24, it says this: all the men of the city were convinced by what the ruler had to say. They agreed with Hamor and his son Shechem, and every male in the city was circumcised. They circumcised themselves, every male. That's a painful thing to go through, especially as an adult male. Doggone it. Yikes. Gives me the heebie-jeebies just thinking about it. But they went through with it. What we can learn from this is that if you are dealing with the narcissist, and you can absolutely trick them into believing that you are going to give them everything they want if they do this for you. But there was a plan with this. You see, what this really was a rescue mission. But I don't want to avoid that. Narcissists, in order to get out of a situation, you have to let them feel like they won. I've made videos on this before. So I want to remind you of this. Oftentimes, to get out of narcissistic abuse, you need to give them the impression they won. In a lot of ways here, what Jacob's sons did, and Jacob is gave them the impression that they won. Sure, you got it. We'll join you, and you can have all of our daughters, and yeah, you can have all of our stuff too. Just go circumcise yourselves, and you win. You win. But what it really was Jacob's sons tricking them to create a rescue mission. Verse 27 says this. 3 days later, or verse 25 says this. After all the men in that city circumcised themselves, 3 days later, while all the men were still in pain, 3 days later, yes, circumcision is most likely a very painful process. So 3 days after they did it, they were probably at the height of the pain. They were still healing. All the men of that area were lying around, probably moaning and groaning. They didn't have doctors back then. They didn't have painkillers. They didn't have numbing ointment. They had none of that stuff. They were rolling around in pain after circumcising themselves. And the wisdom of Jacob's sons understood this. So verse 25, 3 days later, all the men were still in pain in that area. All it took was 2 of Jacob's sons, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brothers. They took their swords. They took their swords with them, and they attacked the unsuspecting city, killing every male that was rolling around in pain who circumcised themselves. This was the plan of the 2 sons of Jacob all along. You see, they gave the narcissists what they promised the narcissisms that they would win. They'd led them to believe they won, but they only did that because they had a plan on how to rescue their sister and to get out of that narcissism. Oftentimes, you can lead narcissists to feel like they've won in your life if and when you have a good plan that goes along with that gets you out. And this is what we see. Verse 26, they put Hamor and his son Shechem to the sword and took Dinah from Shechem's house and left. It was a rescue mission all along. Verse 27, the sons of Jacob came upon the dead bodies and looted the city where their sister had been defiled. They seized all their flocks and herds and donkeys and everything else of theirs in the city and out in the fields. They carried off all their wealth and all their women and children, taking as plunder everything in the houses. Jacob was not happy with that. Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, you have brought trouble on me by making me obnoxious to the Canaanites and the Perizzites, the people living in this land. We are few in number, and if they join forces against me and attack me, I and my household will be destroyed. But the sons replied, should he have treated our sister like a prostitute? You see, the sons had a different view of this than Jacob. The sons looked at what was taking place, saying, we can't do this. We're not going to live in this narcissistic world where these men in these different places and these different villages and these cultures believe that they can take our sister, take women, have sexual encounters with them, objectify them, have them submit, have them do this, and then bargain for them, saying, hey, we'll give you riches for this. They're turning that Dinah, their sister, into a prostitute. That's exactly what was taking place. And in the heart of that prostitution, what they were trying to do with prostituting Dinah was also getting into eventually take all the wealth of Jacob. And the brothers were smart enough to see that. They saw it. We see what's going on here. You objectified our sister. You forced her into having a sexual relationship. And so we're not dumb. We know what's going to happen here. Yeah, you're telling us that you really love her, and now that you're putting on this big charming talk of let's join families now and intermarry, and we can marry your daughters, you marry our daughters, and we'll all be one. But based on the fact that you aggressively submitted our sister, we know what's going to happen. The moment we side with you, you will just as equally aggressively take our stuff. You will take our lives. You will force us to submit. You will objectify all of us, because this is the heart of narcissism. Narcissism objectifies people for gain and for supply and to rule and to dominate every single bit of the way. Jacob's sons saw that. And so immediately they said, no, we will put you to death before that ever happens. And that's what they did. They said, go circumcise yourselves. They first played the narcissist game. They first said, okay, go and circumcise yourselves and we'll give you whatever you want. And then when they circumcise themselves, because narcissists are good at mirroring, they will mirror you if they feel they will win. They will do what you ask if they feel, if they're led to believe that you are going to give them what they want. And we saw that because Shechem and the leader, the ruler, went back to the city and said, hey, everybody, do this. Circumcise yourselves, because if you do, all their stuff will be ours. Yes, go team. It was the smarts, it was the wisdom of Jacob's sons to see this. This is how we'll get them. We'll let them feel like they have control, and then we'll destroy them. And this is exactly what happened. Jacob was not exactly happy with how that played out. Jacob obviously would have done it a different way. But Jacob's sons saw through it, saw through exactly what was taking place. They did not like the idea that these people, these cultures, had this view that people, things are like prostitutes, objectified. It's all bargaining. Give me this person, I'll give you that person. Right? This is a very difficult message, but one of the things that we're going to end it right there, verse 31. One of the things we have to understand about this message, and this is about the world and the reality of the world that we live in. This is why we are doing Royal We Fellowship. We're not looking at the ancient literature of the Bible to get the feel-good love message that modern Christianity likes to teach. We're looking at the ancient literature of the Bible to discover the reality that we are navigated, we're being led and we're being navigated through a very dark, very selfish, very objectifying world that is full of evil. It is full of narcissism. It is full of objectification of people, where we have to diligently look at how people are trying to objectify us. Where is it in our lives? Where are we bargaining? How are we bargaining? How are we being charmed? Are we being seduced? And when we look at the world through the reality that it is, we see that it's not safe. It's not necessarily good. It's not good at all. And oftentimes we have to make decisions that, in order to protect ourselves, need to be done. This is a story of just that. And it's not a good story. But one thing is for sure, we can see the narcissism from the get-go. Again, we are still in the book of Genesis. This is the ancient literature. This is, according to what the ancient Hebrew people, the message that they're trying to tell us about this world that we live in. And this is it. This is it. And with that, I want to thank you once again for being a part of Royal We Fellowship. I'm so glad that you are here. And I encourage you to be a supporter of Royal We Fellowship if it's not required, but if you are inspired to do so, you can do so through PayPal links down below. And we will be back next Saturday morning with more. We're going to continue on our journey. Be sure to share this with people who you might think would benefit from this different take and this understanding of the ancient literature and how we're growing together. And pray for those of you who are of faith. Pray for the Royal We Fellowship, because this is a different approach to understanding the ancient literature. We're going to be facing a lot of the evils and the reality of the world we live in. We're not going to be just looking at the love, and we're not going to be looking at being the good-hearted person. We're going to see the real struggles and the real issues and the real fight against wickedness and narcissism and how we're surrounded by it. And that's the goal. And with that, all right. It's good to see all of you. It's good to see all of you here. We'll be back next Saturday with Royal We Fellowship. Have a great rest of your weekend. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.